I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And this is More the Players, the PopCulturists PlayStation Podcast Extra. And we continue our look at the week-by-week breakdown of HBO's The Last of Us. This is episode 6. It's entitled Kin. Max, what went down?
So this kicks off with a time skip.
Yes,
so
we're in winter now.
We're in winter now. It's 3 months past from the events with Sam and Henry.
Mm-hmm.
We do see a flashback back to that point, and Joel is now dealing with his newfound sense of what I interpret to be his anxiety of how he's going.
He's having panic attacks.
Yeah, he's having mad panic attacks. So the episode kicks off. They're trying to find where they're lost. They're like, we know the rough idea of where we are. They come across a house with two individuals. They're like, we need to know exactly where we are. And there's some banter between the two individuals. They're a very old married couple. And
Native American couple, and they are awesome.
Joel's like, it better match where your wife told us where we are. And he's like, did you lie to him? And she's like, no. He's like, you lying to me? She's like, no. It's very, very nice little comedic little bit before the episode really truly starts. So they've gotten to their point where they think Tommy is. They're like, hey, we just need to work out where we are so we can get to Jackson. And they eventually find their way there. Tommy and Joel have their big
reunite.
Yeah, they're reunited. They have their big moment, and that's when the interpersonal relationship between Ellie and Joel starts to kind of suffer and decline a little bit, because Joel's bringing up all these past feelings of, who he was, how he never really dealt with the loss of Sarah. He's now having panic attacks. He's like, I'm just gonna hand this kid off. Like, I didn't want to do it to begin with. How could I turn this down? It was Tessa's dying wish. Like, what was I supposed to do? So he tries to handball her off to Tommy, and then the episode basically explores how Ellie's feelings between staying with Joel versus going with Tommy, how Tommy feels as he too has started a new family and life in Jackson. He himself is now becoming a father, and then Joel's own experiences of how he's gone from where he was to where he is now, and him trying to deal with all of that pent up emotion that's kind of causing him to freeze in moments where he would normally not do so. It's a very character development driven episode. Not a whole bunch happens in the way of moving the story forward itself, as the overarching story itself.
Yeah, it's as we talk about the sort of 3 episode arcs that we talked about last week, where this is kind of the end of that second, the second 3. So we're closing a lot of loops, but also opening some more, while also really bringing home that more character stuff. With episode 5 felt transitionary in a lot of ways, but this is sort of bringing that home.
So the episode does end with Joel and Ellie essentially reuniting. Joel, has this moment of realization where he's like, Ellie deserves the choice. And Ellie immediately picks Joel. She's like, I might be better off with Tommy, but I'm going to be more scared because I do not know this person. I do not trust this person the way I know and trust you. So Joel and Ellie take off. They're heading towards the where they believe the Firefly encampment to be, which they're being told is at the university just down the highway. Couple of days ride, no problems. And that's where the episode ends once they hit that university.
Oh yeah, I forgot that I'm an episode ahead of you. I was like, wait, did they have the scuffle at the university? Yeah,
there is. They do find there are brigands at the end. Brigands at the end. A fight does ensue.
Yeah.
Joel gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Big old right in the guts.
Yeah. And that's when the episode ends. Is Joel falling off the horse as they're escaping.
Yeah. I really enjoy this episode, as I have every episode so far.
Making blood angels in the snow.
No, this episode was really good. As you mentioned, it really sort of hit home in a lot of character development ways. We had to see some resolution in terms of him finding Tommy, but then opening up those additional things. We'll get this into this before we break it out even further. There's a lot of direct game adaptation stuff here, whether it be the seeing of the dam, which is a quite a big gameplay centerpiece in the release. We've got the visuals of Jackson, which we know play a role in 1 as well as very heavily in 2. We see what might be Dina. Just saying. We see the university, and it looked almost straight out of the game, which is even more insane. Even down to scenes in a almost verbatim delivery, especially around that scene where as you highlighted, where Joel confronts Ellie to essentially say, "This is it. We're separate. We're taking ways." But even down to like the wording and the delivery, and I cried just as hard as I did in the game. It's amazing. But I think in terms of a performance, both Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey really deliver here again, and especially with Pedro, as you talked about with their focus here on that panic attack and his decision to put Ellie with Tommy is a wall. It's that attempt of self-preservation. Like, he knows that he is attached and getting more attached to her, and he is seeing the beginning, like the further connection of that father-daughter relationship, and he knows that, and he, as you mentioned, he hasn't correctly resolved the loss of Sarah, and he is scared, of what could happen to her, and he doesn't want, as we discussed previously, like, he still feels that he is responsible for Sarah's passing, and that has hung over him every decision that he's made since. And right now, he's directly faced with what may be that again, and it's unlike the way Ali sees it, is that he doesn't care. It's the opposite. He cares too much for her, and he believes that this is the only option to save them both. But yeah, we know that that's not the right decision to have made. It was good to see Tommy and even them to have a bit of a confrontation, because it's a very good point, where Tommy's like, "Hey, I'm going to be a dad," and that fucks with Joel, like, heavily.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course it ends in that massive cliffhanger of Joel getting shanked, and we know where it is as players of the game and what it means. But this
means it's time to use a med kit.
Yeah, it's like, to wrap your arm, and that resolves it. And what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this episode was good. A little bit slower than the last few episodes, but again, it's because it's tying the last of those threads together. It was a very, very character development heavy episode, which is fine. They need to get that done, knowing that there's only 3 episodes left. And how much of the story is kind of left to be told. They do kind of need to kick some shit into gear.
They do.
So, I would not be surprised if there may be another time skip.
There would most definitely be a time skip.
But yeah, it's a very well shot, very well acted, very well directed episode.
Yeah. And what I love about this as well is very similar to that of episode 3. We're seeing, hey, life can continue in this world. It was like, we have a town with a hairdresser and electricity, and
but again, it's not the infected that they're concerned about.
Correct.
It's the other humans. They're like, we're not on the fucking radio. we're not advertising about this place. We do not let people in. It's the people that are the problem.
Yeah, and it's that. And Tommy's like, I'm sorry, mate, but I had to. Like this, like you see what this is. We can't risk this getting compromised. And even down to the moment where they come in contact with individuals from Jackson, and they have a dog that sniffs out fucking infected, and they sniff Joel, and it's fine. And then that dog's like, the way they cut that into just and because obviously it really locks in on Joel in terms of that panic. And like, you know, the sound, once again, watching it with my Atmos setup, that sound is all consuming. And the beauty of an Atmos setup is, you know, for those that don't know, it's all surround, but it's also upward firing speakers that bounce off the wall and create this sort of dome of sound. So by having that pressure, that sort of sound and everything comes in, like it's really quite claustrophobic. Like you kind of feel it go, and like crunch you down into this ball. It was awesome. And by having a lot of that, like there's a lot of quiet in this as they're transitioning across that river of death or whatever. A lot of it's just them trekking in the snow, and it's just building tension. What's coming? What's coming? What's coming? What's coming? We meet a group of presumable bandits. Shit. Oh no. Oh, cool. No, they're cool. But hang on. This seems too good to be true. Tension. We have interpersonal tension, like people that are like butting heads, and with Joel and etc. It's like tension. Extrapolate. We get a sense of relief when Joel's like, no, fuck this. I will give her the choice, and I will go with her. They'd make that. They get to the university quicker than they should. Wait, that can't be good. They go to university. It's empty. Oh no. Extrapolate. Ends on a fucking gut-wrenching, pun intended, cliffhanger. The more I watch this show, the more I can say with utter confidence, this will be an Emmy Award-winning show. Like, whether it be best show, best drama, best lead actor, best lead actress, best supporting actors, best supporting actresses, direction, story. Like it's gonna Breaking Bad level clean house. And it deserves every part of that. So good. Did you want to elaborate? Because, like, you know, once again, like this, it's already like a very quick review. It did like 13 minutes in, fucking nothing. But like, I feel there's a lot of poignant stuff in this.
I think that was the beauty of this episode, though. It was, although it felt like a longer episode, I believe it's just shy of an hour. Not a whole lot of action took place. So I watched this because my mother's down to visit. She's been watching them week to week, and because she's here, we watched together. And she's like, "That was the slowest episode that I've seen so far."
Yeah,
and like that was the point. But I'm like, that was the point of it. Like it was there to develop the character, to explain why Joel is now feeling the way he's feeling, how his panic attacks are, you know, he sits there and explains it to Tommy. He's like, you know, I had to let this 14-year-old girl save my life from another kid who had turned, and I just froze.
Yeah,
there was nothing I could do. He's like, the dog was sniffing her. I knew she was infected, and I just froze. Yeah. I'm slower. I can't hear as well. I'm going to get this kid killed.
Yeah, that was fucking his main concern. Powerful.
And like, it's just, you know, like we said it before, he never really dealt with Sarah's death, and I think he realizes that bond between him and Ali has grown so strong that if he loses Ali from this point,
he'll be unrecoverable.
It'll break him beyond repair.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, Tommy's obviously still looking for redemption for what they did in their past, so he uses that against Tommy to a degree. He's like, you want to make up for the shit that we did. You take her, you get her there safely, and you save the world. You save it for your kid. He you know, uses everything that he can to convince Tommy to do this one thing for him.
But it was also sort of really powerful in little moments where we see, you know, on this blackboard in this house, we see essentially a little memorial to Sarah. Because, you know, as a Joel sort of essentially gives Tommy the short end of the stick in terms of, you know, you left us, you forgot us, you ran away. Like, do you even care and or remember? And it's like, no, he cares deeply. He remembers deeply, and it hasn't been lost on him on what has happened to get to this point. You know, and even like what the fun of this episode as well is we see Ellie experience normality, or what would be close to current world normality. She's watched a movie. She gets haircut. It's like she's reading a diary, I think, or is it a book or something? That, you know, where you
someone's journal.
You have that realization that like the most important thing at a particular time was how you dressed and what boys you were looking at. You know, she's, you know, obviously her not being that inclined is already a different way to look at it. But additionally, it's like that's so unimportant in the grand scheme of everything that we've had to see and deal with. And, you know, I would argue like there's been a lot of contention around Bella Ramsey's performance as Ellie. And like it is most definitely different to that of Ashley Johnson. You know, where like Pedro Pascal is essentially Troy Baker's Joel with some variants, but like it's still pretty much 99% there. Where I think Bella Ramsey's a little bit different, but not in like a similar-ish way in the same way that Pedro is. And I know there's a lot of people that have sort of a dislike of her performance, but seeing that, especially that scene where she talks about, hey, like I can't do this without you. Like said, I will just like you think you're saving me, but you said I'll just be more scared. Like I can't be with anyone else. Like that's that connection. It's like you are what keeps me safe. You are what keeps me protected. And you know, and even the cadence of which she says that mirrors that of Ashley Johnson's performance. The shot composition. The only difference is because once again, going alongside what we discussed in episode 1 and so on, is they're doing a lot of similar shots, but they're flipping it. That's the mirror image, like we saw when they were driving out of Texas and the house was on fire, was on the right hand side of the road, or vice versa, or left, or whichever, opposite to what the game was. And from memory, this is the mirrored shot again. Now, admittedly, I watched the episode like 3 weeks ago, so it doesn't sit still. But like in my head, it's like it was the mirror once again, demonstrating that hey, this is the exact scene. It is not a carbon copy. It is essentially the mirror version of it, and then it's a different medium. It's like that continuing that true adaptation angle. But yeah, as you said, we've got a lot of ground to cover in the coming episodes. So I know what the next episode is, and I believe the title for it is already out. It's Left Behind. So you can tell you pretty clearly what that episode's about.
Yeah.
So essentially, they have 2 episodes to get everything to the end of the game.
Yeah.
Which is no pressure, but all the pressure. Where does this sit for you overall? We're 6 episodes in now?
So you want it like ranked against the previous?
Well, yeah, just kind of like, you know, said obviously episode 3 is still the best one. You know.
Yeah, it's probably middle ground.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where it was a bit slower because of the character driven nature of it. I would probably sit it around the middle.
Yeah. Out of the 6, it's probably like 3 is for me as well. Like episode 3, number 1, 2. That's confusing. 3, 6,
number 5, 3.
Yeah. My brain. Yeah. Yeah. 5. Yeah. It's that.
I think last week's episode was a little bit little bit more engaging.
It was
this week.
gut wrenching.
But
The way this episode handles
story,
the way this episode handles like sort of mental health, and we had to see Joel get cracked open a bit more. You know, I think that is kind of what gives it that little bit of an extra bump for me. You know, because it's just one of those expanding. Because last week's episode essentially once again carbon copy. Excuse me. Of the story beats previously, where here I felt the conversation that Joel and Tommy shared opened up the character more that we didn't see in the game. And for me, that is what it makes this game extra brilliant.
Yeah, for sure.
So what just makes your show extra brilliant, I should say. But anyways, yeah, that does bring us to the end of our discussions on episode 6, Kin. Let us know what you thoughts in the comments below. If you want some more PlayStation chats, of course, you just happen to stumble across this, please be sure to check out our weekly PlayStation podcast called For the Players, as every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on this exact YouTube channel, that if you're watching it here or whichever. Next week's PSVR 2, big week. So I hope you make the way across to have a chat about there. But yeah, we'll return next week for episode 7. But until then, I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And that was More the Players. I don't think... Do we have a quippy line from the show?